Was a loving and dedicated father. He was the epitome of what every father should be. Watching him parent made me love him even more.
A loving tribute from a grieving wife, Lisa Gualdino, with a message for her partner of a quarter century.
Frank, my love, I want to assure you that I will take care of our precious children, that we will get through this together, one day at a time. Thank you for all that you were. I will love you and miss you forever until we meet again.
Frank Gualdino, posthumously promoted to detective sergeant. The loss to his Yonkers police family, immense. To his wife and children, immeasurable. 13-year-old Mark wore his dad's motorcycle jacket and held his hat, while 20-year-old Emily had her dad's badge on a chain around her neck.
He was also our friend, hero, mentor, and anything else Mark and I needed.
She lost her dad December 1st, killed by an unlicensed teen driver speeding out of control behind the wheel of a high-performance sports car. At the funeral, many speaking of Gualdino's bright outlook on life, reflected in his brilliant smile.
Through the tears, I smile because his smile made you smile.
The family hoping his legacy inspires others to view the world with Frank Gualdino's optimism and kindness.
Seeing and doing the things that bring us together rather than tear us apart. And understanding the importance of kindness and wanting to make someone smile the way Frank did.
There were somber faces at the final farewell. When the pain eases, many will surely smile when they remember Frank Gualdino. Tony Aiello, CBS 2 News.
Good evening, folks. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Business Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, joining me is Anthony DiMaggio, former Yonkers police lieutenant, to discuss the Detective Sergeant Frank Gualdino case and the recent indictment of the 16-year-old driver. Good evening, folks. I'm Freddy Vazquez. Happy Tuesday. Good evening, folks. Happy Tuesday. Good evening. Freddy Vazquez. I'm going to have Anthony DiMaggio, former Yonkers police lieutenant, 15-year veteran of the Yonkers police force, to join me to discuss the case of Detective Sergeant Frank Gualdino and the recent indictment. I want to get a perspective of a police officer, someone who has some experience in law enforcement, hear their take on it, discuss it a little bit more, and talk about the investigation and this 11th month investigation that they said has been going on. But, most people didn't know that it was an investigation happening. In fact, there wasn't much information being provided to people. And this had a lot of people angry. So to hear this recent indictment, I'm sure is making some people feel relieved. But there's still some details about this investigation and the recent indictment and charges that are, still not making people happy. So again, help me welcome Anthony DiMaggio. Haven't had him on for a while. You're back. It's been a while. How you doing?
Pleasure to be with you again, Freddie.
Good. First of all, I want to say, actually, I want to send my condolences to the Nasser family. They suffered a loss, and there was a funeral today for the wife of Cal Nasser. And so I do want to say sincerely, I send my apologies to the entire family, my condolences, and, may God be with them at this time. I just want to make sure.
Mine as well. Mine as well. From what I understand, Cal's wife was very young, and it's very sad. He was, in my opinion, a great guy. So I'm sure his wife was a gem.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I heard he was he's a good guy and stuff like that. So I want to, send our condolences, just because, that's something that's very unfortunate. We want to just say that we're thinking about him at this time, and I send my prayers. But good evening, folks. Thank you for joining me. I have Anthony DiMaggio. If you don't know, he also hosts the podcast, The Blue Truth. I called it the Unfit LT, but it's the Blue Truth podcast. So if you haven't been watching that, check that out. He's got it up on his page, and he talks a lot about, what's going on with your case, as well as other cases, other individuals that have reached out to you. So that's, if you're interested in that, make sure you check that out. But we're here tonight to talk about Detective Sergeant Frank Gualdino, who was killed by a 16-year-old unlicensed driver in a BMW driving recklessly on Tucker Hole Road. This was about, I believe, December 1st of 2022. It's been about 11 months now, or pushing 11 months. So tell me what you've been thinking about it. Tell me.
Well, I caught the tail end of your intro there, and you highlighted how nobody seemed to know that there was an investigation of that length and magnitude going on. I can tell you why that is because there wasn't one, So
you don't believe there was an investigation this entire time? They weren't, No,
I mean, there was an investigation, but an investigation into an incident like that where the entire thing is on video when it's more or less cut and dried, it doesn't take 11 months. Probably doesn't take 11 days. So if you want, we can get into some of the reasons why I believe.
Well, yeah. Well, I was going to ask you that. Why do you believe that? And people I've seen comments about the election, and this is political. But why do you believe?
Well, yeah. I mean, sure, it's political. Mimi Blankets, as I've come to call her, is
that's Mimi Roker, the Westchester County DA.
Yeah, sure. She's about as political as it gets, despite all her claims to the contrary. And, in my strong opinion, this was nothing except her delaying at the request of her allies in the party. The prosecutorial part of this, incident, the grand jury, which, if you've seen the video like I have, it's clear as day that that's a criminally negligent homicide. I think I even said that on one of the podcasts that I came on with you.
Well, let me understand the process, right? So when the police officers in Yonkers, because I was told that it was up to the county, why I was asking certain people, why isn't Yonkers pressing charges? They said, well, it's up to the county to bring charges, right? So, but Yonkers police arrest an individual or something like this is committed in Yonkers, right? How does charges come about? I mean, isn't there someone in Yonkers that presses charges? I mean,
well, it could have been handled a number of different ways. And the way that they ultimately decided to handle it was to go with a felony charge of criminally negligent homicide. Now, why a felony? Because a felony is something that, the district attorney has to get permission from society, from the people to move ahead with. And that takes the form of a grand jury. Right. So 23 members of the public will hear all of the evidence coming from the prosecutor, from the DA. It's a prosecutorial event. It's the defense gets no say in a grand jury. It's not a trial. It's just the prosecution showing the grand jury all of the evidence that they have and saying, do we have enough to charge this person with a felony? Now, for misdemeanors, you don't have to do that most of the time. But for felonies, yes. So in my opinion, they resorted to criminally negligent homicide, which it is. I mean, it's definitely that. But they could have also charged reckless driving. I'll send you a link and we'll go over some reasons why I think they didn't.
Do you think they were waiting for him to be old enough to be charged as an adult?
No, because how you get charged depends on how old you are when the crime was committed. No, they waited because they know how it's going to play out, right? So him being 16, the problem with this case for politicians, and more specifically for Democrats in New York State, and even more specifically for Democrats aligned with Albany, being Governor Hochul at the moment, is that this case highlights in no uncertain way the problem with the raise the age law that was passed right around the same time as bail reform. I don't know if they were passed simultaneously. I think they might have been.
It was closely.
But even if not, I mean, just a few years ago, this young man would have been charged as just that, as a young man, as a 16-year-old, as an adult in the criminal court, no matter what they charged him with. 16, you're an adult. Now it's different. Now 16 is a juvenile delinquent for most purposes, certainly for this purpose. So, once they charge him with something, he's got a right to a speedy trial. So they can't just delay the outcome until after the elections. So they had charged him right away. Soon after December 1st, the accident, okay, it's there, it's on video, it's clearly a criminally negligent homicide at a minimum. Let's go ahead and charge him. Now, the reason they don't want to do that is because once they charge him, he's got a right to a speedy trial, no matter how old he is. You just charge him and leave him hanging in limbo forever until after the November 2023 elections. But they don't want the result. They don't want the final disposition of the case to happen before the election because it's going to cause outrage. All that's going to happen to this guy is he's going to spend a little time in juvie. He's probably going to plead guilty in the family court, and we'll explain why he's about to go to the family court.
So what does that charge mean exactly? He's being charged with a felony. Negligent homicide. What is it? Felony?
Criminally negligent homicide is an felony in the penal law, not the vehicle and traffic law. It's sort of a catch-all charge in the penal law that's put in there for any time.
When I hear felony, I think of it's a big charge. Felon,
right,
you're a felon.
Right, and that's what this press release is all about. I mean, I don't know if you were just reading it in the intro, but I thought I saw you. I watched part of your podcast last night. You were reading the statement. Was it from Spano himself? Yeah.
The police department.
So when people hear homicide, he's being charged with murder. No, he's not. No. Criminally negligent homicide is an felony. It's basically the lowest form of homicide you can charge somebody with. And it's sort of a catch-all for when one person has caused the death of another person and the circumstances don't really fit any of the other homicide statutes. It basically says when you've behaved in some way that was so insane or so just completely inconsiderate of any type of reason or decent behavior, etc., in a way that was just totally reckless and negligent of all of the risks involved. And as a result of your behavior that you chose to engage in, you killed somebody. So it's basically a catch-all kind of a statute, criminally negligent homicide.
So you're saying that they waited, there was no investigation. It's pretty much they had video, they had the witnesses, they know what happened, shortly thereafter. But if they had, pressed the charge, filed these charges, indicted him at that time, then he would have a right to a speedy trial, which would then result in a verdict, which could be unfavorable for, certain individuals during the elections coming up in November.
1,000%.
So wait to file the charges, so that way, by the time the outcome of the case happens, the elections are already over.
Right. So whenever you have a sequence of events that you know from your experience how it's going to play out, and it's going to be a series of good news, yay, the indictment, and it includes the word homicide, make everybody happy. Spano gets a nice little bounce going into next week elections. By the time it gets resolved and everyone sees that all he's just going to get is really a slap on the wrist, some time in juvie and maybe 1,000 or so hours of community service, the election's all over and Spano's well into his fourth term.
Now, let me ask you, I want to ask you this real quick. I want to bring up the CJ Hackett case, right? The 16-year-old who was killed by a drunk driving city employee. And now there was no why was that so pretty much quick, right? There was no real investigation there. That didn't take 11 months. What's the difference in those cases? And I get it, it's political, but how can they say this took 11 months, but with CJ Hackett, we were able to determine, it so quickly?
Again, political calculations.
Rather than doing a thorough investigation to find out exactly, what this guy was doing, what his real state was, how his, how much alcohol he drank, based on the number that they, of drinks he had, to make sure that they maximize.
The outrageous thing, and the way I see it, in that case, is that the prosecution is going ahead and taking the liberty of applying the affirmative defense for the defendant. So in other words, and I think we spoke about it on the podcast that we did about that, when you're drunk, okay, and you've been arrested for a DWI or, vehicular manslaughter, like he was, the presumption is, meaning that the case starts from the point of this accident happened because you were driving drunk. You caused this accident by driving drunk. That's where it starts. It's actually built right into the law that way. It's up to the defendant to go to trial and raise the what we call the affirmative defense, or just raise the presumption, raise the the rebuttal to the presumption. No, there were other factors that caused this accident. So in other words, if he wants to say this kid was drunk, look, you took a sample of his blood and this was his blood alcohol content. That factored in. That's his job, the defendant. It's not Mimi Roca's. It's not Mike Spano's. Even though from what I hear, Mike Spano himself is going around telling people that exact thing. Like, come on, well, those kids were drinking that night, talking about CJ.
Right. I did hear that. I don't know who said it, but I heard from people that it was going around being, it was said that, that he was drinking and they were trying to imply that he has some fault in his own death as a result of that. And you're saying that, that the police or the investigators were the ones that took it upon themselves, the liberty to determine that, right. When they shouldn't be focused on the kid,
which is insane.
If he's dead, he was killed, they should be focusing on the individual who did that, right? And I don't want to get away from I was just wondering how the two cases, one was
the difference is that this situation, it's basically the worst possible example they could think of, where a 16-year-old who is someone, this kid didn't have a license, but you can get one at 17. It might even be 16. You can get a
learner's permit.
Well, you can get your learner's permit, but you might be able to get a junior's driver's license at 16.
Right.
I know definitely it's 17. I don't remember exactly what the law is. It's been a long time since I got it myself. But, say he had a license. Now, think about the glaring problem with the law. I mean, you're old enough, by giving you a license, even a permit, right?
Right.
We're saying you're old enough and mature enough for society to entrust you with these privileges, these awesome privileges, where you can kill somebody,
right?
Like Frank Gualdino, who was at zero fault, and Commissioner Sapienza said that in the press conference that he held the next day. His exact words were, "This was not a case where our officer shared in any fault or anything. He was doing nothing wrong, and it was all this other fellow's fault." Now, so as a driver, someone entrusted with those privileges, you can kill somebody, and we're saying we trust you to be mature enough not to do things like this, but at the same time, you're also too young to be charged as an adult if you do something like this,
right,
and kill somebody,
right.
So it was not a very well thought out change in the law.
If you accept the the privilege of having a license and being able to drive a vehicle, right, which can be turned into a deadly weapon, and we've seen people use a vehicle as a weapon, right, and kill people, multiple people, right, then you should be then charged as an adult at that point, right, because you're accepting this adult responsibility, which you obviously did not, you weren't responsible with. What about the adult who is responsible, right? The person that owned the car, that allowed him to drive the vehicle in the first place. What fault do they have? What, responsibility, any legal responsibility, or do they have?
That's not as cut and dried. If Dad says, "Hey, look, I didn't give him the car. I didn't give him the car. He went and took the keys and, he just..."
So then that's another charge of stealing, driving a stolen vehicle.
Well, Dad would have to press charges for larceny for that, which he's not going to do to his own son. So, yeah, I mean, it's a problem. It really is a problem. Now, in my opinion, reckless driving should also be charged. But then when I was looking over, a summary of the new statutes concerning juvenile delinquents and a new term they came up with, adolescent offenders, and the way it works, I could see why they didn't charge him with reckless driving, which is a misdemeanor in the vehicle and traffic law. Now, I was looking at a link earlier. I found it a while ago, but let me see if I can.
A lot of people were registered. Let's just really talk about that real quick. A lot of people were upset while you're looking for the link because his name was not released, and they're saying it because of his age. But I can show you cases where they released the name of the person who was 15 and 16 years old, and then they weren't releasing the name of the owner of the vehicle, right? And they said at least that's who owns it. Who let this kid take this car? They know that there's some connection. The family may be connected to certain businesses here in the city of Yonkers, maybe politically connected, maybe political donors, and so people were upset that he was being protected as a result of that. And so, do you believe that to be the case? What do you think?
I believe, you know, I don't know any of that for a fact. I mean, I've heard it. If it is true, then it's probably just a case of both factors being in play. I think the delay has more to do with party politics and this raise the age law thing. And I think the reason that they're not charging him with reckless driving might have a lot to do with, you know, his family's connections with the mayor or whatnot. Because as you're about to see, I'm going to send you a link. If he were to be charged with reckless driving, he would be getting charged as an adult in the criminal court. It's very weird the way they wrote the new laws. I never studied them because the last time I studied for a promotion exam, it was still the old laws. That was back in 2017.
So you're saying that even if he was 16 years old, a charge of reckless driving would then have him be charged as an adult?
Yes.
Regardless of the raise the age law. I'm going to
send you a link to the raise the age page right now so that we could take a look at it together. And you'll see the way the laws are written. And, you know, lawyers obviously are the ones who write these laws and then vote on them. They think this stuff through backwards and forwards. I don't really know why they do it the way that they do it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can probably read about it somewhere on the internet, but I'm going to send this. We'll take a look at it. Just give me a second. No, go ahead. I'm putting together an email.
So, you know, no, I just, a lot of people were upset about this, you know, case, you know, and this is just another, you know, another example, you know, of a lot of the corruption, right? The corruption that goes on in the city of Yonkers. Let's call it what it is. You look at the CJ Hackett case, right? The individual there, you know, the time that he's facing, right, and the way that he's, you know, that trial's going from, and the way he's being treated with kid gloves, right, after killing someone. Then you see this young kid now, the same thing, being treated with kid gloves, right, and you know, after he killed someone, and it's a police officer, you know, our beloved police officer, right, and you know. It's just, you know, it just, you know, I was reading something that a council member had wrote, you know, and it just shows the sense of entitlement that person has, and just that, you know, these individuals have, and even at the loss of a life, it's like that doesn't even register almost, right? Like they're willing to still look for ways to, you know what I mean? Like they just care about the person that's a part of their,
to justify it, to spin it, right? You know, I mean, it's. You know, yeah, it's tragic. It's tragic. You know, obviously Stephen Dolan and his family have a lot of connections to law enforcement.
And that Rory Dolan's, that's the Dolans of Rory Dolan.
No, I don't. I mean, Dolan is like Smith.
Right.
They're all over the place. So it's like I've never known.
Dolans, I've heard with Rory Dolan and now this Dolan, but I got an email from an anonymous person saying that. There was.
It's possible, but I don't know. I never knew anything like that. I knew Bob Dolan pretty well when he worked in the 3rd Precinct, and you know, I never knew of any relation. Yeah. But you know, as far as both of these cases, and especially the one with Sergeant Frank Gualdino, that's my take on it. It's obviously very political. If you think that this investigation, where the entire thing was on camera, and all there really was left to do after that was maybe interview his parents. And you think that took 11 months and it concluded in a grand jury that took place a week and a half before the elections. If you're buying that, then you got to start paying attention to politics more, because everything is political. Everything is calculated, especially with these people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Oh, you got the link. Right. So there you go.
All right. So New York's raised the age. RTA legislation changed the age that a child can be prosecuted as an adult to 18 years of age in criminal cases in New York State. Prior to the RTA, New York was one of 2 remaining states to hold 16-year-olds criminally responsible. RTA changed the age of criminal responsibility to 17 as of October 1st, 2018, 18 as of October 1st, 2019. Is there any specific part you want me to read there?
No, I mean,
look, scientific research has shown that prosecuting and placing children in adult criminal justice system does not work. Well, I don't think putting adults in the criminal justice system is working either. Really. Children or adults, neither one works.
Well, we're hardly putting them in the criminal justice system these days. You know, that was these two law changes working in tandem are really wreaking a lot of havoc. Maybe less so this one. I don't know. I mean, you said that when they released they have released the names of young people, 15-year-olds, etc. in certain cases. Now that's for certain crimes.
What, like murder?
Okay? Right. There are certain extremely heinous crimes, probably about a dozen or so of them. Murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree, armed robbery with a firearm, forcible rape, certain very serious sex crimes, things like that, where a 14, well, it used to be 14, 15, now it's 16, 17, will be tried as an adult.
So right here, and not to cut you off,
right.
16 and 17-year-olds charged with misdemeanors under the vehicle and traffic law are considered adults, and their cases are decided in a local criminal court.
Reckless driving is a misdemeanor under the vehicle and traffic law. If they were charging him with that, which they should be, he would be getting tried as an adult in the criminal court. So they're doing him a favor.
And so what would the difference be in, let's say, in the sentencing he would be facing?
That I don't know, because I would have to study these laws and how the sentencing applies to these people of various young ages now that the law has changed. Like I said, I studied it under the old laws, and I knew it pretty well, backwards and forwards. These new laws, I never studied them. So, I mean, what we see here on this website and on the flow chart that you can click on, you and I will.
So essentially, he would have the charge of reckless driving, right? Which would be a misdemeanor. So it would be a misdemeanor charge.
It would be a misdemeanor under the vehicle and traffic law. Now, for some reason, DJ Opie Daddy, nice to hear from you again, pal. No, so misdemeanors, non-criminal violations, and VTL misdemeanors go to the local court.
Okay.
Non-criminal violations and VTL misdemeanors, right? For some reason, vehicle and traffic law misdemeanors, and there aren't a ton of them in there, those still go to the criminal court. And I think they did that realizing that 16 and 17-year-olds can drive.
Ah, so they did think about that.
Yeah, they did. I guess they did, but I don't know why. I mean, what happens for vehicle and traffic law felonies? Because there were a few of them in there. I mean, do those go to the local court? It seems like they stayed away from the vehicle and traffic law on purpose in this situation.
Yes. And that's probably what they spent the 11 months figuring out.
I think they had that figured out in 2 weeks.
Non-violent felonies, which is what he is being charged with, right?
I don't know if they consider criminally negligent homicide a violent felony. I don't know.
No, non-violent felony.
Oh, I don't know if they consider it violent or non-violent. I don't remember. I don't remember that stuff.
Well, it goes to family court. He's going to family court.
Classifications of laws. So here's what's going to happen. Right. So violent felonies, non-violent felonies. With this case, whether it's a violent felony or a non-violent felony, if you look at this flow chart, basically, and it's not a very well-constructed flow chart. It's all over the place. I don't like it.
Right.
But what it basically comes down to is that Mimi and whatever judge hears the case in this youth part, which is this youth part thing, is a new that youth part down in that circle in the bottom right. It's a new thing that they created. There was some equivalent under the old system, but now they call it the youth part at the county court or the state Supreme Court. You see, the county court is where all felonies are tried for adults. Apparently, they created this youth part thing up at the county court, where what's going to happen now is that Mimi is going to have to make application to a judge to have the case stay in the youth part. It's going to be commenced in the youth part, right? Because it's a felony. So it's going to be commenced up there in the youth part. But then if she doesn't intervene and make an application and give her reasoning as to why it should stay in the youth part and not get kicked down to the family court for him to be tried as a juvenile delinquent, if she doesn't do that, or if she does do it and fails, then it's going to go back down to the family court, which is almost certainly what's going to happen. I'm telling you right now. That's why they did it this way. They charged him with a penal law felony, so that it can end up down in the family court. He could get charged as a juvenile delinquent. If he's smart, he'll plead guilty. He'll do a little time in juvie detention and, you know, a whole bunch of community service, and then he'll move on with his life. So this is political as shit. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not.
Oh, 1,000%. So here, New York law, reckless and traffic law, section 1212. Reckless driving shall mean driving or using any motor vehicle, motorcycle, or any other vehicle propelled by any power other than muscular power or any appliance or accessory thereof in a manner which is unreasonably unreasonably interferes with the free and proper use of the public highway or unreasonably endangers users of the public highway. Reckless driving is prohibited. Every person violating this provision shall be guilty of a misdemeanor.
Now, have you seen the video? Do you think this guy did that?
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. He was flying. He blew past the car on the right. You know, what happened is he blew past the car on the left lane. He tried to get over to the left lane, and that's where he lost control.
Right, but he was driving like a madman. He
had to have been. Right. Because, you know, for him to lose the you know, control like that, that's because he was going fast. Just joining now, since I'm not getting notices you're on. I'm sorry, I put one out. I'm sorry. I might have missed it. If I ask the owner of the car is being charged or whoever is responsible for allowing this kid access to the car.
No, Joan, we touched on that. It was probably going to happen. His dad is going to deny having given him permission to take the car, and that'll be the end of that.
Which, you know, would be stealing, driving a stolen car. But the reckless driving charge should definitely be applied.
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe we should be asking, why isn't it? Why hasn't the DA applied it? Maybe, you know, others should be asking why. Could they do both, the charge he has now plus the reckless driving charge? Or is it one or the other?
I don't see why not. And, you know, in which case, you know, I think according to the flow chart we were just looking at, that would go to the criminal court. And, you know, it's just, you know, I mean, it's another case of Mimi Blankets doing some big favors for some other big time politicians.
No, she's not running for re-election next election. So,
no, I think my guess is she's probably got a, you know, a $400,000 payday lined up at some law firm, you know, doing criminal defense, because that's what a lot of prosecutors do. They flip sides of the coin.
He will get a 6.5, and that's it. So his bail was set at $5,000, correct?
That's what I heard. I didn't read that anywhere. I think it was Joan who said it. I read it.
Yes, somebody said $5,000. Which is nothing for for this individual and his family. I mean, he was driving a $100,000 vehicle, M5 BMW, very powerful car, high performance. And look, if they did their homework, right? And listen, a police detective contacted me actually around the time that this happened, based on some things that I was saying on my podcast. I had received information from someone who, was familiar with the individual in this car. That's how I located the home address and some of the pictures that was posted to his Instagram. That person told me that they were almost hit by this car a few days earlier while walking their dogs. So if the detectives, and I relayed this message to the detective that had reached out to me. Now, if they're doing an investigation, then based on that information, I'm sure information they could have gathered from other people, they would have determined this guy was known for driving recklessly. So it's not, something that it's not only was he doing it that day when Detective Sergeant Frank Gualdino was killed, but he was known for doing this. They saw this car driving through the city streets recklessly. So that should have definitely been applied. And look, the detectives, and I guess it's up to the DA, right, to file those charges for the reckless driving. But why do you think that the police are not pushing more? Yonkers police, this is one of their own, right? Why don't we hear more from PBA president or the whoever, whatever union he was in, the CLSA union? Why not?
Because all of them are Spano puppets and none of them have any fucking balls. That's why. I mean, you want the harsh answer? You want the cold, hard reality of it? That's what it is. He owns them all. He owns Keith Olsen. Sorry, Keith. He does. Everyone knows it. The brass, he chooses them. So he owns them. They don't get to be in the positions that they're in unless they bend the knee to Spano. So it's like, it's Sapienza. Because Sapienza's been a puppet of his for many years. I mean, I don't hate Sapienza. I think I've said it before, but
When was the last time a police officer in Yonkers was killed in the line of duty? Yeah.
A long
Right.
time ago. Yeah, a long
And
time
so,
ago. Yeah.
when was the
I
last
don't
time
even remember. I remember the story. I don't remember the name.
long time ago.
Long
And
time
so
ago, yeah.
here we have, you know, for the most part, and we had a police officer shot on Elm Street, you know, maybe a couple years ago, right? But he survived. So we don't, our police officer, for the most part, you know, have a high probability of coming home each night based on, you know, the amount of incidents where a police officer lost his life. And so here we have a reckless driver. I mean, we're not talking about some crazy man with a gun just, you know, shooting at cops, right? It's just a teenager who was irresponsible, right? His family was irresponsible for giving him this vehicle, right? He was known for going throughout the streets of Yonkers irresponsibly, driving wild, and he's getting a break.
Big break.
You can't get a break on this. Our police officers don't die normally, and so we definitely shouldn't let them, you know, die over some idiot's mistake, you know, and then we don't say nothing about it. You know, the irony that he was a traffic officer.
Yeah, I mean, people can make their own decisions about how to feel about it. You know, I just want to, when I saw the statement from the department, and I went and I read about those raise the age laws, and I saw that flow chart. And, you know, the flow chart's an oversimplification of the laws, obviously. But, you know, it makes a lot of sense. You know,
we have to set an example here. We have to set an example here. I mean, you know, you got James Nolan, you know, you got a lot of other elected officials that talk about the drag racing, you know, the loud mufflers and all this stuff, you know, and we hear them on Central Avenue, and now they kill a cop. And no example is set. What's the point of putting up all those sound detectors and all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, look, when you've been through something like what I've been through with the department, and you see just the fraud all over the place, again, at the highest ranks. I'm not talking about the rank and file, the guys out on the street just doing their damn job, their dangerous job, trying to do it well and go home at the end of the day. I'm talking about the brass. Right? When you see the way they spin things and they bullshit people, you know, the first line of that statement, after an 11-month investigation, stop right there. I said to people, stop right there. You know what that is? Let's insert the poop emoji. It's poop. They're lying through their damn teeth. This investigation did not take 11 months. That's the first thing people need to know from the unfit LT, okay? I was a cop for a long time. This investigation did not take 11 months. You know, in murder investigations, homicide investigations, a lot of times those are the easiest investigations. It's not like on TV. You know what I mean? You watch those TV shows. And especially when you have the person guilty, okay? The investigation is usually very quick and easy. All you have to do is decide what he's guilty of. You have to look at the evidence, analyze the evidence. That doesn't take 11 months.
I mean, to do an 11th month investigation and not to charge him with reckless driving.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like you did a thorough investigation. The Beeline bus has a camera that I'm sure caught the car coming towards them, right? Because they always have a camera that faces, you know, so they see the oncoming traffic, everything in front of them. So I'm sure they can see the way the car was driving as it was coming towards them. So it was heading east. And then also, again, from what a witness told me, who reached out to me, and I'm sure there are others who might have seen this car driving recklessly, that should have been applied, right? And so the fact you're saying we did a 11-month investigation, we want it to be thorough, but you're not thorough because you're not charging them with obvious charges that even, you know, us non-law enforcement, we're not prosecutors, we're not, you know, judges or nothing like that. And we can see that the reckless driving law should, you know, charge should be applied.
You know, my buddy Stevie D made a comment. Did you see that comment from Stevie D?
Yes.
Yeah, Stevie D, you know, I haven't spoken to him in a lot of years. He's an old pal of mine, you know, from the 3rd Precinct. We got along real good. You know, we even hung out together off duty now and then, you know, a lot of years ago. So I love Steve.
Right.
And what he said in that comment is not untrue. You know, a lot of investigations do take time and they shouldn't be rushed. This was not one of them. So I have to disagree with Steve here. This is not an investigation that took a long time. Then people can say, "Ah, you were never an investigator, dude."
But even if they did, I mean, if you're consider yourself intelligent, right? And even if they, and I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about whoever's listening. Even if they did, think about this. Then why was he not charged with reckless driving? You would have figured out in your investigation after 11 months that reckless driving was involved in this homicide, in this death.
No,
that's
yeah,
the
well,
main reason.
You should have figured out. You should have figured that out after 11 seconds of watching the video,
right?
So that's what I'm saying. The idea that this took 11 months, forget it.
So you can't
forget all the major pieces are right there at the crime scene. The perpetrator, you got him. The video, you got him. There's nothing. This is not a whodunit type of an investigation. This is not.
I don't want to forget. Joan brought up a point. Good point. I don't want to forget the people who were injured on the Beeline bus. Right. There were a number of factors here. County bus driver injured and bus damage. Passengers were injured. There was some that were injured. City car destroyed. Right. All relatively minor with the loss of beloved sergeant, detective sergeant, of course. But why are they not litigating against his family? Right. There's a lot of damages that occur, the death of the officer being the biggest. Right. But there's so much that happened here for this to, be just kind of.
It's calculated. It's all been calculated out and planned out. I mean, it's from the second I heard that it was a 16-year-old, and this took place after they changed the laws. I already know right then and there he's not going to get in a whole lot of trouble because he's basically a juvenile delinquent. Now, I come to find out later after I read some of this stuff, that's unless they charge him with vehicle and traffic law crimes.
Right. Like reckless driving.
Which they're specifically avoiding doing. You understand? They should be. Couldn't be any clearer of a case of reckless driving, but they're staying away from that to keep him in the family court, to keep him away from the county court, the Supreme Court, the adult stuff. And the timing of it is so that they sandwich the election in between the good news, which is the announcement of the indictment, and the bad news, which is the fact that he's not going to pay much of a penalty at all. It's strategic.
Right.
It's strategic. And, I don't want, people can, I'm not saying you should
feel
it
makes perfect sense.
That's up to you. But
it makes perfect sense.
How to feel about it is up to you, but you should understand what's going on because you're not going to get it from the brass. You're not going to get it from City Hall. You have to get it from someone who was on the inside and knows how these things work and who has, just a general understanding of politics. I've been following politics for a lot of years. Everybody's calculated, right? Everybody wants to win elections. And, you have to be able to read between the lines, which is something that I do well, especially when I'm, dealing with these people. So that's what's going on. That's it.
It's very unfortunate. Definitely, it is political, just like many other things here in the city of Yonkers, and it makes a lot of sense. Get people, make people feel good about the indictment. Right? Finally, something they're doing their job. The elections come out.
It's Spano that releases the statement, wasn't it? It was from the mayor, right? Wasn't it?
No, I believe
it was from the department, but he made a statement in it, right? They quoted him, wasn't it?
I'll take a look at it.
Am I wrong about that? I thought I read a quote from him.
Well, let's read it real quick. Nearly after an 11th month investigation, the Yonkers Police Department is announcing that criminal charges have been officially filed against the driver who caused the December 2022 accident that killed. So he's saying he caused an accident. He didn't cause the death. He caused the accident, right? Caused the December 22 accident that killed police detective. On Thursday, December 1st, 2022, at approximately 3:34 p.m., members of the Yonkers Police Department responded to the Springbrook Parkway overpass on Tuckahoe Road on a report of a motor vehicle accident. This accident involved multiple vehicles, namely an occupied Westchester County Beeline bus, a 2020 BMW M5, and an unmarked Yonkers police vehicle, a Chevy Impala. The operator of the police vehicle was identified as Yonkers Police Traffic Unit Detective Sergeant Frank Gualdino, a 24-year veteran of the department who was set to retire soon and subsequently succumbed to his injuries and was pronounced deceased at an area hospital. The operator of BMW was identified as a 60-year-old male resident of Yonkers. He was transported to an area hospital in critical condition due to laws. As a minor, they're not identifying him. This case is being heard in Westchester County Family Court. The 16-year-old male was indicted by Westchester County Court grand jury on Friday, October 27, 2023, for one count of criminally negligent homicide, a felony. He surrendered.
Penal law felony is what, you know, they're
What's that?
If they wanted to be more specific, they'd say a penal law felony.
A penal law felony,
right.
Criminally negligent homicide. He surrendered himself to Yonkers police detectives earlier today and was subsequently arraigned in the youth part of the Westchester County Court this afternoon. The consequences of the irresponsible action of the driver resulted in a loss for our Yonkers Police Department, our city, and most importantly, the Gualdino family, said Mayor Mike Spano. Several law enforcement agencies dedicated time and resources by proactively pursuing this case, and we thank them for their effort and commitment. Thank you to Westchester County District Attorney Mimi Roca for securing charges with the following case. So he said the consequences of the irresponsible actions of the driver resulted in the loss of our Yonkers Police Department, our city, and most in a loss for our, right? So he's saying the irresponsible action, which is reckless driving.
Yeah, he didn't say reckless. He should have said reckless action. He specifically avoided that, if you ask me, purposely. Because if you say reckless, then it's like, well, how are you not charging him with reckless driving? Irresponsible as if he stole a bag of potato chips from the corner store. It's ridiculous.
And this, Jones says, all I remember is the day of the press conference announcing the death of Sergeant Gualdino, with the mayor asking all to remember that the young driver was also seriously injured. Really? This was a time to ask for sympathy for the driver who caused the death? And I remember that, you know. And so,
yeah, well, I mean, you know, sometimes people, even in their 20s, are not mature enough to be driving, in my opinion, a lot of times. So it's, I don't wish this kid any ill. I don't wish this kid.
Yeah,
neither
do I.
I don't. That's not on me to judge. I'm just here to analyze.
An example needs to be set, because this is the problem with Yonkers, and this is what I say, and I've said this to certain individuals, you know, people in Yonkers, you know, that run the show, you know. I've said this. I said that, you know, you want to hook people up, right? You want to give family and friends a job. You want to, you know, look out. Okay, I get that. We all want to look out for our family, right? But when they're causing problems, right? When they're causing issues for other employees, they're not working, or they're abusing this, you know, the job, doing, you know, abusing overtime, or when they're, you know, driving the vehicles drunk, right? Or taking vehicles to bars and stuff, then they cause deaths and injury and damage to property. That's not okay, right? And so you can't allow this to happen. So you have to nip this in the bud, right? You can't just, you know, it's like with the drunk driving, right? You had the drunk driving, many employees that were driving drunk, and it resulted in either injuries to other people, injury and death to other people or themselves, right? And so where do you nip it in the bud? Where do you say, no, enough is enough? We have to set an example, you know, enough people dying, whether it's a 16-year-old boy on a scooter, or it's a police officer in the city of Yonkers just driving in his, you know, car on duty, doing his work. You know, where do you know, we have to set an example. So I don't wish the kid any ill will. I'm not looking, it's not personal. It's not about this specific kid, but too many people are dying and getting hurt. And there are too many people that are doing this are getting away with it. And that's not okay. So,
yeah. And I mean, you know, I would like the cops to know that, the Yonkers cops, and just cops in general, but specifically the Yonkers cops, you know, they could be pursuing more serious charges against this fellow. And they're not. They're staying away from the V&T because that puts him apparently in the criminal court. They don't want him in the criminal court. They want him in the family court. He's obviously got some sort of connection. You know, they should be charging him with vehicle and traffic law violations, starting with reckless driving.
God forbid this happens to another police officer, right? For a reckless driving, right? Or one of the residency in the city of Yonkers.
You know, reckless driving is a misdemeanor, which means it does not have to happen in a cop's presence. Traffic infractions, things like speeding or blowing a stop sign, things like that, those aren't crimes. Those are traffic infractions. Those have to happen right in front of the cop. And if need be, you can request a deposition from the cop, you know, for your court case, and the cop will have to write one out of what he saw. Reckless driving is a misdemeanor. You don't need a deposition. The DA might want one. Maybe you fill one out, but you don't. It doesn't have to happen in your presence. Is the point. You know, you don't have to see it happen. You got it on video. That's good enough. You know. Have
you been getting any? You know, I know you still, you know, kind of keep your ear to the street. You know, especially, you know, with the police department. So, have you gotten any of their feelings on this? You know, since the indictment You know, or just in general, how do they feel? You know, any officer and stuff.
I get complaints about a lot of things. A lot of things. Certainly, when this was fresh, you know, almost a year ago, there was a lot of buzz about it, a lot of people talking about it. I heard some other things a few months back saying, you know, that's over with. It's completely squashed. I think maybe the brass injected that rumor, you know, that nothing's going to happen. The kid's going to get off scot-free. I think they just wanted people to kind of forget about it, you know, to not talk about it.
That's what I was hearing, from insiders.
But I don't know. That's just me speculating. But I was hearing that like it's over with. They're not doing anything with him. But hey, you know what? If you're going to do something with him, save the announcement for right before the election, you know. So they're playing games. They're playing political games with this case, just like they do with everything.
Do you think a lot of people are seeing this more now?
Hey, you know what? It's like that. It's like that scene from The Untouchables. You remember that scene? I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I know I've been thinking about it. I've been wanting to say it. I don't know if I mentioned it on your podcast, maybe on my own. It's like that scene from The Untouchables. Remember? You ever seen a movie?
I have. I just don't recall it.
Probably a long time ago. Yeah, Andy Garcia and Sean Connery. All right, we're going to take down Capone. You know,
I remember the movie. I just don't remember the scenes. Yeah.
So Sean Connery takes him right to the door of the distillery, of the illegal, you know,
right,
the illegal distillery. And Andy Garcia says, "Well, how do you know it's here?" And Connery says, "Everybody knows it's here. It's just it's not a matter of where and who. It's just a matter of what do you want to do about it? Because once you kick in this door, the war is on, and there's no going back. So it's, you know, what's happening is happening in plain sight. The corruption is out in the open, you know, and it's just who wants to do something about it. How do you get people to pay attention? That's the trick. In a town that's politically asleep, in a town where in the Democratic primary there was a Hispanic woman and a black woman on the ticket, and they couldn't put together 1,600 votes between the two of them, or 26. Corazon got 1,600. Between the two of them, they couldn't put together 2,600 votes in a town of what, 60,000 registered Democrats. So people aren't paying attention, you know, and that's how the Friends and Family Network carries the current administration through election after election. You know, that's why they don't want. That's why they're delaying this stuff going on with my other friend that I've been podcasting about until after the election, because he's part of DPW, and if too many guys in the DPW and the Parks Department, or you know, the Teamsters Union in general, get wind of what they're doing to him, it might turn some of them off, keep them away from the polls.
Many don't know.
Right.
Many don't know.
Right. Oh, I mean, yeah. It's, put it this way: a lot of people had no idea what was going on with me, what was really going on with me, until I started coming on your podcast. They believed all kinds of crazy nonsense, you know. So who knows what they believe about him?
I put a post out today, not too long ago, you know, calling on former and maybe even current city employees, and the reason I did that is because, I mean, there are a lot of people that have been fired for retaliatory reasons. You know, have been sued and won. Some have sued and won. Fired for either speaking out or seeing something that they shouldn't have seen, right? And they wanted them out. And so people have come up to me. Someone else came up to me, and I was told about an individual in the city of Yonkers who was caught stealing or attempting to steal the police officer's exam, which is kept in a safe. This person caught this individual, and as a result, that person was fired for catching the person doing this.
Right. I don't doubt it. That sounds extremely wild, and a lot of people hearing it right now might doubt it, but that's what they do.
This is a true story.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't doubt it.
I mean, this is not an anonymous. This is not an anonymous email. I mean, this is face-to-face talking with the person.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, you know, it was the same. It's a pattern, right? So the tricks they pulled with me because I had dirt on, you know, on John Mueller, on the police commissioner. I compiled it. He gave it to me. I didn't go sniffing through his drawers at home, at his house.
Right.
It was all shit that he was doing at work, and all I was doing was catching him and taking note, you know, putting it on a flash drive. That's it. And for that reason, I got to go down. So it's almost the same thing. Same thing with this, you know, my buddy Paul, who I'm talking about. You know, he was being bullied and harassed in the workplace. Now, he's a grown man. He's not, you know, running home and tying up a noose.
Right.
He could take it, but he was complaining about it. So when they see a lawsuit coming for hostile work environment, emotional distress, whatever, they get out in front of it by sending you to one of their doctors who says that you're all messed up. You're the problem. You know what I mean? And that's
like with my wife.
People going down because because they're the ones getting assaulted.
It's cost the city a lot of money in lawsuits. I was reading one case because I'm doing research and I'm putting these cases together. One case where a woman was fired because she was doing a good job. She was saving the city money, one by finding ways to cut expenses, but also by catching people stealing time and stealing money.
Yeah.
And so they ended up firing this person for trivial reasons. The person ended up filing a lawsuit. This is another person. They won.
Yeah.
The judge stated it was obvious that this was retaliation. It was trivial things that they were picking on, and yet they had a good record. And so, like, this is it's just disgusting to me, and how people can do this and get away with it time and time again.
Well, when you have allies at the district attorney's office, when you have allies in just about every attorney's office across the county, when you have allies, you've been in office for 12 years, 16 years, and a healthy percentage of the judges on the benches throughout the county, or in some way or to some degree beholden to you. I mean, it's a dictatorship, and it's not good.
And it's just incredible the people that go along with it, that are willing to be a part of this, and that they're just okay with it.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you just got to play for the long run and be willing to lose if you're gonna go to war. I am. You seem to be. Other people are waking up to that sort of mentality too. So we'll see what happens.
What do you have to lose? I mean, at this point, they're gonna come for you no matter what, right? And so you have to just say, listen, I'm gonna, because and I feel bad because some people just think that, okay, I'm just gonna try to stay quiet, stay low, but that's it. Once you've been targeted, that's it.
Yeah, no, not with people like this.
There's no going back.
It's like, goes back to Munich and Churchill sounding the bell about Hitler, but Neville Chamberlain wanting to make peace with them. Oh, if we just give them what they want and appease them and.
But I'm hoping
don't fight with him too much. He'll just stop. And Churchill's saying, no, he won't. He's nuts. He's not going to stop. The more you take that attitude with him, the harder he's going to keep coming. He's going to keep coming more and more and more. You got to fight him. That's it.
Yeah,
there's no way around it.
You have to stand up. You have to speak up. You cannot be quiet anymore. You can't be afraid anymore. Everybody has to speak up. And it's happening more and more. More and more people are speaking up, but we need more people. I want to hear from people who have been, in a situation like that, whether, former or current. You can remain anonymous. I want to hear your story. You got to start putting these stories together and talking out about this. This is unbelievable how they just target people, and they target good people. The good people, the people that do the job well. And so the residents suffer also. So it's not just the person being fired, losing their job, their pension, their income, their livelihoods, their business. It's also the city residents who don't get to have, these amazing people because they want to have their friends and family. They want to have individuals that are not qualified, criminals, people that are on drugs. Meanwhile, the people that do a good job, they get rid of them. They fire them. A lot of black, and I'm seeing this as a pattern, a lot of black employees who were let go, fired just before their probationary period ended. So they filed, civil rights lawsuits against the city, and they've paid. And so how much money is taxpayer going to continue to pay because certain individuals who are in control decide they want to retaliate and get people fired? They don't care. It's not their money. It doesn't come out of their pocket, right? And
but we're chipping away at their playbook, man. This IMA clinic, they're not going to have too much success, playing that trick on people anymore. From what I've heard, they've already tried to play it with people, after I started coming on your podcast, and the people said, no, I know what goes on at that place. I've heard that.
Good.
I don't know how true it is,
more
but
people are watching. People are watching.
Yeah. So we gotta keep talking about it, and that's it. And
and that's my plan.
Yeah, mine too.
you know, a lot of people are concerned, you know, the results of the election, you know, and you know, that things are not going to change, and that, you know, we can't come out because, you know, people are still going to remain in office and they don't want that problem and stuff. But, you know, we have to come out, we have to vote, we have to make this the biggest voter turnout, and, you know, in decades. You know, early election has started, November 7th, the election. People have to come out and vote. There's a lot of people that are upset for one reason or another, even if you're not involved politically. Maybe you don't have a job, right? Maybe you were hoping for some prosperity with all this development and you were hoping for these jobs to come in, but that's not happening, right? There's not any of these opportunities that were promised. So breaking news coming soon, how Mayor Mike Spanner really feels about the CJ Hackett case. Oh, you know, it's a sad thing. I heard some stuff happen at a meeting.
I know what Tony's talking about. Yep.
Sad thing is when you expose the bad apples, you have others that stick up for the bad apples, not knowing the truth about the situation. 1,000%. 1,000%. That's happened to me. People say, "Oh, but you don't know what these people have done." And some people maybe can't believe how vicious they can be. And look what they did to you, right? Look what happened to you. What happened to the guy Paul that you've been talking about? I mean, they take away everything from you, everything but your life. And I think that's probably have happened once or twice before in the past. But they take away everything from you. They literally try to bury you.
There's nothing to stop them. You know, there's nothing to stop them. I mean, especially, well, he's in a hell of a lot better shape than I was, than I ever was. You know, because I told him when he was about to walk in.
You gave him the heads up.
Yeah, and he took the proper precautions. So, you know, I'm confident that he'll be all right in the end. He has to. Something's got to give, because let me tell you something. When you have the damn evaluation recorded, and it doesn't match the damn report a bit. Well, I mean, at what point does it start to get ridiculous? You know what I mean? It's like, so we'll see what happens with him. There's not going to be any updates on that until after the election. But I told him to, you know.
Well, here's one thing I'm going to say, and we'll wrap this up. Make sure you record everything. And that was a great advice that you gave him. And I hope that if there's anything that you guys are taking for this podcast, and, you know, and I've said this too, this has helped me out and is helping me out. Record everything. You have to. You go into these meetings, record everything. It's just a way to protect you. It's not about being sneaky. You have to protect yourself. Unfortunately, you don't know who you can trust, right? So record everything. I told my wife to have done the same, just because, you know, I was aware that things would be happening, and I'm glad that we did. So we're just waiting out to see how that's going to play, and then, you know, we're going to then make our next move. So, you know, we'll see what'll be happening. But this has to end. We need to come out and vote, speak up. Don't be afraid. You have the former Yonkers police lieutenant here, Anthony DiMaggio, the Blue Truth guy, right? Check out his podcast. You have Freddy Vazquez with Basement Politics, and you have many others that are speaking out, commenting on these pages. So it's time to speak out. Let's not be afraid. I got your back. Anthony has your back. Anthony, is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Just, you know, if you work for the city of Yonkers, it's obviously why we do these podcasts. These are local podcasts, not really meant to grab national attention. So we're doing this for the people of the city. Get in touch with Freddy or I.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, politicwithfred@gmail.com. Tell them your email.
Oh, mine is Anthony D. Yeah, Anthony D. The Unfit LT @gmail.com.
Anthony D. The Unfit LT.
That's right.
@gmail.com.
And obviously, as you've explained before, I call myself that mockingly because of the way that I was terminated.
Right.
Total rigged game. So I make light of it. And
so if you are someone who is a city employee, like he said, and are going through a situation with human resource where they want to send you to some doctor or some place or whatever, you know, it's all about retaliation, retribution. Make sure you reach out to Anthony. He can help you. He's been through that situation. He was able to help other employees. It was a big help, right? And if you want to get your story out there, or you have information that can help end all this, reach out to politicwithfred@gmail.com. That's me, Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics, folks. That's Anthony DiMaggio. Make sure you check out his podcast.
Just one more thing, I will be talking about Paul a little bit more in the coming week. The next few days, maybe, if I can get it in. If not, then at some point next week, I'll be talking more about the Paul Agostino situation. It's very interesting. So
I hope he can come out one day and talk publicly, Paul. He has a lot of information.
I hope so too, man. I hope that yeah. I mean, whatever happens, I hope he comes out on the other end all right. That's all. He's a good man. He's a family man.
Yeah, he's a good man. He deserves, what what he's owed. It's unfortunate, imagine them taking away everything from you, how you feed your family, right? Simply
I don't have to
because you
imagine.
spoke out. Well, not you. I'm talking to the people out there, right? Just because you spoke out on the truth and you said what was you did the right thing, right? And so it's unfortunate, but I hope he comes out publicly. I think he has a lot of information to say. I've had a lot of talks with him, I'm sure, as you, and so it would be great to have him on the podcast. Anyway, Anthony, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. That's Anthony DiMaggio, folks. Make sure you check him out. Check out his podcast. Take care, brother. Have a good night. I'll talk to you soon. Folks, that was Anthony DiMaggio. Thank you for joining us. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics. And just really quick, I want to leave you with that. We have to speak up. There's a lot of people that are going through, hell right now, that are struggling to maintain their jobs or keep their jobs. People that are going to work in a hostile work environment. They're feeling the hostility. They're feeling, the evilness, what it is, because it's really evil, these people, what they do to folks. But when they decide to target you and they want you gone, whether, they want to see you get fired or they want to see you quit because you just can't take it anymore. And there have been people that have quit, people that have gone on to other, cities to work, or have left Yonkers completely simply because of what goes on here among the individuals that are in certain positions. And these are people that have been friends for a very long time, right? This is, generations of friendships and families that are, in this power structure, right? That have, grabbed on to, hold of the city and are not willing to let it go. And if you speak up about that, if you, say, what you see happening that's wrong, you will be a target. And they will come after you. They will target your business. They will target your family. They will completely try to destroy you. Until you disappear. I would imagine, until you're not there anymore, right? Until you're not, speaking out anymore. But more and more people are starting to speak out. More and more people are not afraid anymore. Are becoming less afraid. I have been on here speaking truth for 2 years now, over 2 years now. And in that 2 years, we have been attacked, in many ways. It has been difficult for my wife. It has been difficult for us to establish our business here. We had a business established, but unfortunately, because of, the corruption here, the resources that certain individuals have, to certain, in connections to certain individuals within the building departments and other departments, they, attacked my business, prevented me from becoming fully operational, and now we're working to try to get it, back up and running, but they're still coming at my wife and they're still trying to, see to it that she's terminated, I believe, And, it's very unfortunate because she does an amazing job. And a lot of other people have done amazing jobs and have been terminated simply because, they see things that are not right and they speak out about it. They try to change these wrongs, right? And unfortunately, they failed. But many people have sued and won lawsuits costing the city of Yonkers a lot of taxpayer money. But ultimately, the people that are doing this don't care because it's not their money. It's not coming out of their pockets. So they don't have a problem with getting someone fired and then having them sue the city and then winning money, right? So that's not going to change things, a lawsuit. We need to start to speak out. We need to become more vocal. We need to stop being afraid. We have to make noise. You have to come out and vote this year. You can't let these feel-good events that are done by our elected officials or these announcements right before elections, dictate, how you're going to vote, right? You have to look at their track record since they've been in office and what actually have they done that's important, that has impacted the city, in a positive way. right? We don't care about your little events. You don't care about your little awards, right? We don't care about the bouncy houses and stuff. That doesn't fix the infrastructure. That doesn't fix the aging schools. That doesn't create more space for our students. That doesn't improve the quality of education. That doesn't provide residents more jobs. That doesn't provide residents with affordable housing. That doesn't bring crime down, right? That does not do anything for the people. It's great to have a day or two where our kids can bounce in a bouncy house and have a clown paint their face. But ultimately, we need our schools improved. That's what those kids need more than a bouncy house. The adults need more than just a feel-good event where they can go to for the day so a politician could get your vote. They need jobs. They need affordable housing. They need daycare, affordable daycare. They need to put their kids in universal pre-K, get their kids' education going. They need their child's IEPs serviced correctly. They need their children to be put on a bus that's not going to drop them off in some random street. We need more. We need more, a lot more. And our elected officials have not been providing us with anything other than more buildings that are forcing local businesses to close, that are forcing homeowners to sell. They are forcing daycare centers to close. That project on Woodworth Avenue caused a daycare center across the street from it to close. 90 families having to now figure out what they're going to do for childcare because they want to build 2 32-story towers on Woodworth. They don't care about the families. They don't care about the children. And how do they do it? They send the building department in there to condemn the building. I talked about this. It's the same pattern. When you want a property to shut down or you want a business to shut down, you send in the building department. They find violations. They condemn the building. That's how they take it from people. They've done it to the meat market on Ashburton and Woodworth when they wanted that property. They sent the building department there. After 70 years, no problem. Now the owner had to knock the building down and rebuild if he wanted to keep his business there. So he ended up moving. Jobs lost. You're being lied to. You've been lied to. Anyone that supports our current council members who are supposed to represent the people of each of these districts have no clue what's going on or are benefiting. At this point, no one should be voting for Tasha Diaz. No one should cast a vote for Shanae Williams. Shanae Williams represents District 1, where a lot of the developments are happening, where that daycare center was forced closed. What does she do about it? What is she doing for the homeowners who are opposing these 2 tall towers in such a small area? Disrupting the homeowners and their properties. What are they doing? And when I speak about it, my wife suffers. It's time to vote for change. Yonkers, you have to wake up before it's too late. It's time to vote for change. It's not about what party you belong to. It's about change. Yonkers needs everyone to come out. The people who have been retaliated on, who have lost their jobs, the people who are in danger of losing their jobs are students in the Yonkers public schools, taxpayers. We all need people to vote for change. Yonkers police officers, look at how they are handling the Frank Gualdino case. The man is dead. He will never see his son graduate from college or get married. His daughter as well. And they are protecting the person who is responsible for that. They care about their future. But what about Frank Gualdino's future and the future of his family? How does that look? How many more people have to die in Yonkers? They're dying at the hands of city employees or people who are connected, who are getting away with it. When are we going to nip it in the bud? When they're campaigning, they're out on Central Avenue talking about the drag racing. Look at the sound detection machines we put up so we can be notified for the drag racing and the illegal racing and donuts and burnouts and mufflers. And then here you have a kid drag racing, driving recklessly. Been seen throughout Yonkers doing so. Finally, he kills someone, a police officer. And what's the charges? What's the outcome, right? When are they going to nip this in the bud? When are they going to actually step up and do something? And so to the officers, you should see how much your lives are worth. Some politically connected individual could kill one of you, and they're going to get a slap on the wrist. Are you really that beloved? Are you really, that cared by these people? Are you really that cared for? They really respect you? Or they just use you? Endorsements and votes and other things. Enough is enough, folks. I'm tired of it. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics. I'm not going to stop this podcast. I'm going to continue to bring you the truth because someone has to. Someone has to fight this. Someone has to say enough is enough, and I'm not going to be afraid. I'm not going to shut my mouth because of threats, harassment, and bullying. They've done everything to me, just about. And I'm not going to stop because it's not okay. This is not right. And it has to end. And I hope that you join me. And you can do your part by voting for change. I'm Freddy Vazquez, folks. Have a beautiful night. Thank you. Joan, I would love you to go on into your story of what Joan would love for you to go on until your story what John Spencer did to you when he fired you back in the day and you said and you beat them and you sued and you beat them. A lot of people have sued. A lot of people have won. A lot of people have stories. And I'm hoping that people start to come out and tell their stories. And you can do so anonymously. I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics. Join me. Join me in creating change and ending corruption and protecting those who have been the victim of retaliation here in Yonkers. Have a beautiful night.
I was raised in housing. I don't think you were. I want to end this quick because I'm greedy and I want someone to butter chicken.
In another one, Mr. Rubo lied to me. And I don't vote for a person that lied to me. Thank you very much.
Folks, I'm Freddy Vazquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. It's disgusting, the sense of entitlement that some of these individuals have, like Mike Breen, who's saying he's happy to see another Fordham Prep graduate giving back to the community by being appointed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. How is he giving back, Mike Breen? By being appointed to the Zoning Board. And what about Yonkers public school graduates? Are there not any qualified Yonkers public school graduates? And if not, what does that say? You should be happy that they are appointing people from Yonkers, who grew up in Yonkers, who care about Yonkers, who didn't go to private schools, expensive, wealthy ones. And it seems like it's all about the elites remaining in control, right? You have to go to Fordham Prep or Stepinac, or you're not good enough. Is that what it is, Mike Breen? What do you mean by that? What about Fordham University? If someone graduated from there, are they good enough, Mike? Where did you graduate from, Mike? What was your GPA? Were you cum laude? C word.